I'm going to talk briefly about a small band of late 18th century radicals known as the Scottish Martyrs. They're commemorated by this rather fine granite obelisk erected in 1851 in Nunhead Cemetery near where I live in South London, and also honoured in the famous Old Carlton Burial Ground in Edinburgh. But notwithstanding some recent interest and a few new books, their story remains relatively unknown. So who were they, and why does their story deserve an airing today? Well, Thomas Muir, Reverend Thomas Fish Palmer, William Skirling, Maurice Margarot and Joseph Gerald were, in the early 1790s, at the forefront of emerging agitation for extended suffrage and parliamentary reform. And for having the temerity to challenge the existing order, they were convicted of treason and sedition, then transported to Botany Bay to serve long sentences. They're of interest today because in our times of declining support for the values of freedom and democracy, it's worth revisiting the formation of a new sovereign state and the battle for democratic representation, and who should govern and how to gain consent of the governed. By the 1790s, the Act of the Union had already existed for 80 plus years, and many of the archaic rules and landowning ruling cliques were being swept aside. Meanwhile, the Scottish Enlightenment had taken root, and according to some, the Scots invented the modern world. Accordingly, many radical reformers such as Thomas Muir were men of letters, often lawyers and academics. But Scotland was also starting to urbanise, modernise, and in towns and cities had become an increasingly literate society. The mix was potent, especially when discussion and debate in taverns, coffee rooms and workplaces evolved into Friends of the People societies, where the hot topic of the day was political representation. When these societies gathered at a series of national conventions in Edinburgh, concern over dangerous new ideas of political equality led the ringleaders to be arrested and sent down under. Today, with Scottish independence a hot topic, it's worth recalling that back then, retaining a distinct Scottish identity through a separate kirk and education and legal systems was the concern of the new Scottish elite. By contrast, the radical Democrats forged links with their English counterparts, keen to establish British democracy. Indeed, only 2 of the 5 martyrs were actually Scots. Likewise, as Walter Scott and other romantics invented Scottish heritage and donned kilts to emphasise their cultural difference, our group of hardy radicals instead took inspiration from the Enlightenment, the American-French revolutions, and radical figures such as Thomas Paine. The most famous of the Scottish martyrs, Thomas Muir, eventually made a swashbuckling escape from Botany Bay on a boat to Canada, evading capture there by fleeing to Monterey, only to be imprisoned by the Spanish on spying charges and transported back to Spain, where he was badly disfigured fighting the British Navy, before making his way to Paris to be received as a revolutionary hero, and in turn to meet his own hero, Thomas Paine. Paine was an inspiration to the Scottish martyrs, many of them following his lead in disseminating their radical ideas through pamphleteering. Today, when debate is too often closed down, we need more ideas, more discussion, more contestation. So we could do worse than draw on the tradition of such radical pamphleteers. And that's exactly what we at Academy of Ideas have done by starting a new initiative, Letters on Liberty. To start reading them, go to our website and order some for yourself and for all of your friends. And next time you find yourself with a glass of whiskey in your hand, remember and raise a toast to the Scottish martyrs.